Hi and hello, I am Athena Pandian here. Welcome to the Anatomy for the Biomedical Engineers classroom. Today we are just going to shift to the next unit of our syllabus. That is the first topic of the syllabus. Second unit is circulatory system. So what is circulatory system and what are the key points we need to note for this particular circulatory system regarding everything we are going to see in this video. Come, let's see, start the class. Circulatory system. The name itself says that circulatory is nothing but if there is any circulation happens in our human body. What is the main circulation happens in our human body? The blood. The human blood is circulated in around the body through the blood vessels. So if we need to maintain that particular circulation over the blood vessels in all over the body, so we should have some of the system. That particular system will circulate the blood in around all the body. So that system is nothing but the circulatory system. What is the key point you need to note is the structural and functional unit of this particular circulatory system. Because of this part, the circulation happen in our human body. That is nothing but human heart. Yes, of course, human heart, HH. Human heart is a major part of this particular circulatory system. This particular organ, it helps the blood to circulate all over the body. Come, let's see what is human heart. Human heart is the major organ in the circulatory system. So where it is? Human heart is present in the mediastinum region. Mediastinum, where it is mediastinum? Of course, we all know that heart is in the chest part. Okay, where is exactly it is located is? We know that this is not a human heart actually. This is a respiratory system actually. This is a lungs. Where the particular heart is located? In between the two lungs, there is a space. That space is called as a mediastinum. In between the lungs, there is a small space in the chest region. The space is called as the mediastinum. Our heart is situated in the mediastinum. The internal human heart. This particular organ helps the human blood to circulate in around the body. So this organ, that is this particular organ, that is mediastinum organ, is very responsible for the circulation. What are the parts involving in the circulation? Before we are going to see the parts of the human heart, we can able to see the rooms of the human heart. We have the 4 different rooms of human heart. Initially, we can able to divide this human heart into the upper chamber and the lower chamber. The upper chamber are called the auricles. The lower chambers are called the ventricles. See, this is the upper chamber and this is the lower chamber. This upper chamber is called as an auricle and this lower chamber is called as a ventricles. Further, this upper chamber and lower chamber are further we can able to divide into 2. That is, we can able to divide this particular chamber and this particular chamber. This is nothing but your right auricle. This is nothing but your left auricle. Upper chambers are auricles, lower chambers are ventricles. Furtherly, we can able to divide the upper chamber into right upper chamber and the left upper chamber. Right upper chamber is called as a right auricle. Left upper chamber is called as a left auricle. Same as that of, we can able to divide this particular ventricles into 2, that is left ventricle, right ventricle and the left ventricle. This is the main part, that is the right ventricle and the left ventricle. This is the major part, this is the major chambers we need to note. That is right auricle, left auricle, right ventricle and left ventricle. Parts involving in this human heart. first take the parts involving in the right auricle. Okay, so in the right auricle we have the two vena cavas. These vessels are considered as called as a vena cava. Vena cavas. Okay, this is called as a superior vena cava. This cavity that is looking upwards, right? That is called as a superior vena cava. The vessel that is vena cava that is moving downward, that is called as a inferior vena cava. Inferior vena cava and superior vena cava. Okay, this is the parts you need to remember. Then come to the left auricle. In the left auricle we have the parts called as the pulmonary vein. This is called as a pulmonary vein. It is exactly 4 in number. The 4 openings are present. Okay, the 4 openings are called as a pulmonary vein that is present in the left auricle. Okay, then come to the ventricle part. In the ventricle we have the valve, that is, just take an example of that's taken a right ventricle exactly. This right ventricle have a valve that is emerging out. This particular valve, that is this particular valve is this particular vessel is nothing but your pulmonary artery. From the right ventricle, that is from the left ventricle, we have one more vessel that is emerging out, that is called as an aorta. These are all the valves, these are all the vessels you need to note about. That is superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, pulmonary vein, pulmonary artery and aorta. Particular auricles and the ventricles are divided by the chamber or divided by the wall, that is wall, wall. That is called as a, the two auricles, that is two auricles and the ventricles are divided by the wall, that is called as the auriculoventricular wall. It's called as the auriculoventricular wall. Then each and every auricles and the ventricles are divided by the chamber, that divided by the wall, that is called as a auricular wall and ventricular wall. Okay, auricles and ventricles are divided by the wall, that is called as the auriculoventricular wall, and each every auricle, that is right auricle and left auricle, are divided by the auricular wall, and the right ventricle and the left ventricle are divided by the right ventricular wall. Okay, so you need to remember. Then in the auriculoventricular wall, in the auriculoventricular or where it is present, it is divided the auricles and ventricles. Okay, in the auriculoventricular wall we have the two valves, valves, valves I am talking about. So in the auriculoventricular wall we have the two valves, that is called as a tricuspid valve and bicuspid valve. Tricuspid, bicuspid means that, tri means that 3. This particular tricuspid valve having 3 openings. This particular bicuspid valve have 2 openings. Okay, this is present in the auriculoventricular wall. Okay. The need of all these parts, that is functions of heart. If you want to see each and every part's function, then the whole heart function we can study. Okay, then first of all we just start with superior and inferior vena cavas. Of course you know that this is superior vena cava upwards and this is inferior vena cava, it's moving downwards. What is the purpose of this is? This particular vena cavas collected the deoxygenated blood from the human body. This inferior vena cava collects the deoxygenated blood from posterior side of the body, that is from the lower part of the body. It will collect the deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood means that impure blood. All the impure blood will be collected by this inferior vena cava. Then this superior vena cava, that is moving upwards, that particular part, it receives all the impure blood, the deoxygenated blood from the anterior region of the body, above the heart, from the head and everything. So these two are collected the deoxygenated blood from all over the body, that is posterior part and the anterior part, and all over the body respectively. This is the part. Then come to the pulmonary vein. See, simultaneously Once this particular superior vena cava and inferior vena cava collect the deoxygenated blood from the human body, simultaneously, that is parallelly, this particular pulmonary vein carries the oxygenated blood. We already told you it is 4 openings. Pulmonary vein carries the oxygenated blood, that is pure blood. It collects the oxygenated blood from the lungs. From the lungs, the oxygenated blood is emerging out. That particular oxygenated blood will be collected by this particular pulmonary vein. It does simultaneously happen. Once this particular superior vena cava collects the deoxygenated blood, parallelly at the same time, this pulmonary vein collects the oxygenated blood from the lungs. So your auricles, that is right auricle and the left auricle, are fully covered with the blood, fully filled with the blood. Okay, then during the particular time, that is during that particular filling time, your tricuspid valve and the bicuspid valve, I already told you that 2 valves are present in the auriculoventricular valve. Okay, this particular tricuspid valve and the bicuspid valve is closed while filling the upper chambers. Auricles are filled with the blood. One is deoxygenated blood and another one is oxygenated blood. During that particular time, the contraction happens. The contraction of auricles at times. Due to that particular contraction, we already know that we have the tricuspid valve and the bicuspid valve in the valves of the auricles and ventricles. Okay, this particular tricuspid valve, because of the contraction, because of the pressure created, this tricuspid valve open. Parallelly, we have the bicuspid valve in the ventricle side, that is left ventricle side, left auricle side. Due to that pressure, this particular bicuspid valve is also open. So, due to the contraction of the auricles, 2 valves are open. Because of the opening of the valve, the blood inside the auricles will be moving towards the parallel ventricle. Okay, all the blood in the auricles will be moved towards the parallel ventricle. Then now the contraction of the auricle getting relaxed. Okay, then the auricles are emptied now. Your ventricles are filled with the blood. Once all the blood will be moving towards the ventricle, the tricuspid valve and the bicuspid valve will close. Okay, this is part. Then come to the ventricle part. Before we see the contraction of the ventricle, we need to note the 2 important parts. That is, we already know that pulmonary artery is present in the right ventricle. Aorta, it is present in the left ventricle. In the bottom of these valves, in the bottom of these vessels, that is pulmonary artery and the aorta, we have the valves as like as tricuspid valve and the bicuspid valve. The pulmonary artery having the small valve in the bottom, that is called as the pulmonary valve. In the, that is aorta, we have the small valve at the bottom, that is called as the aortic valve. Okay, please remember. Then now come to the contraction. So now the auricles are getting relaxed. Then it is the time to ventricle will contract. So once the ventricle will contract, please remember your tricuspid valve and bicuspid valve will closed. Okay. Then during the ventricle contracts, because of the pressure creation, the valve that is present in the bottom of the vessel, that is in the pulmonary artery and the aorta, we have the valve. Due to the pressure created in the ventricle, the bottom valve will open. So during the time, the blood in the right ventricle and the blood in the left ventricle, it is moving towards the parallel vessels. That is, the deoxygenated blood will moving towards the pulmonary artery and the oxygenated blood will moving towards the aorta. This is a small descriptive function of our human heart. That is how the blood will be moving towards the heart and how the blood will be moving out of the heart. Like that I'm saying. In the next class, we are going to see about in further what is artery and what is veins and what is these particular parts of further parts of this particular human heart structure and how the contraction and relaxation happens. Everything we'll see. Thank you.